cybercrime something that, do you think it's increasing and will increase? Do you think it'll level off, or do you think it's going to decrease? Is there any trend that we can see?
Sure, actually it's very categorical. The data says it's increasing significantly. And there's lots of reasons for that. Part of it, at a basic level, is the volume of technology we use in our lives, the amount of time we spend on the internet. We're now using smartphones. And we have a lot of trust in technology. We're giving a lot more information away when we purchase things, when we register on social media sites. So there's two halves to this. One is we're contributing to opening up the field to the opportunity for the criminal. And the criminals are getting more savvy, and they've got more opportunities too.
Well, I saw you on LinkedIn today. So you talk about social media.
Yes.
Even someone fighting cybercrime uses social media.
Yes, yes.
So he said it's multifaceted. Is it something that you think is increasing, decreasing?
I think there's no question but that statistically it's increasing, and I think that that's because we've all accepted the convenience associated with technology and the internet, and whether we're talking about using wireless internet access at your house, or whether it's your smartphone, or whether it's your email, we've all accepted the convenience of online banking and things like that. But at the same time, a lot of those technologies are rolling out faster than the security countermeasures are rolling out. And just like any other area of crime, we're always trying to stay on course with or on pace with the people that are trying to violate you. So whether it's a better lock on your front door or whether it's a better password for your computer, the analogy is the same. The crook is always trying to defeat the lock, and we're always trying to make a better lock.
So I would think if the technology is rolling out faster than, let's say, the solutions to deal with the problems, then we're only temporarily one step ahead, or maybe sometimes we're a step behind. Because I would think even when you come up with that lock, the criminal is out there looking for ways to unlock it.
Absolutely.
Precisely, as Dr. Rackentile touched on earlier, that is going to go up and up because our landscape of internet is increasing. Like people are using cloud computing. Every company, every organization is using cloud computing and all the electronic media. As my colleague indicated, that we put better lock, but we need to know how to use that lock better. In today's world, no matter how much technology you have, how much muscles power you have about security, but if we do not use it properly, then still we will be equally vulnerable as we were before. And I would suggest the fourth thing every individual or every organization should do in order to protect themselves. Number one is that do not click on any email link which you are receiving from somebody who is untrusted source, because it will open up backdoor to your computer. Secondly, never ever leave your computers open while you are walking away, meaning lock your computer before you walk. We call it in our terms, lock before you walk.
Even in your own house?
Even in your own house, because you don't know that, I mean, there is a perfect analogy that husband and wife might be working with two different competition organizations. So you want to protect your company's technology from your spouse, even though he's your loving husband or loving spouse.
What are you saying in terms of trust?
All right, so I mean, it's good that let me finish my chain of thought, and then I will touch on thought. In the organization basis, every network, every computer, host, database should be patched and upgraded as and when any new patch is coming out. Like, for example, database will be patched, operating systems will be patched on regular basis, even applications should be patched on a regular basis. Upgraded. And the new patches coming out, like Adobe and other applications. Because if you do not upgrade the patches, then as you just touched on earlier, that as you move forward, new threats come along, and then that threat, if you don't patch it, then your system is becoming more vulnerable. And lastly, password. People are using password of their birthday, their loving daughter's name, and those kind of password are weakest link. You have to use password passphrase nowadays. Or you can use like two-factor authentication, meaning something you have and something you know. In information security world, we call it two-factor authentication. That's not possible in every scenario, but at least you can use password, change your password every 3 months, if not 6 months. And do not write down password underneath of keyboard. I bet you that 50% of the people, they always write down password under the keyboard. That is the most vulnerable. It's like leaving key under the mat.
Okay, so what would you have to add? Presumably, you would add something.
Sure. Well, I would say much to what Raj just said, you know, no matter how good of a lock you have, if you don't actually lock it, then it doesn't do any good that you've installed it. So, and he actually stole my analogy, which is that, you know, you can install the most expensive and high-tech lock in the world, but if you then put your key right under the mat, then you're simply inviting people to come and unlock it for you. So I think many of his points are true, which is that an ounce of prevention here is really what we're pitching. I mean, a lot of these cyber crimes are extremely difficult to investigate, in particular because they often originate overseas or elsewhere. And so particularly at the local level, they're difficult to pursue after the fact. So the best thing people can do is educate themselves about a few simple things they can do to prevent being the victim of cyber crime in the first place. And, you know, as he alluded to earlier, much the same way about any other type of crime we would talk about, whether it's a street robbery or whether it's a hacking of your email, you don't have to be the hardest target, you just don't want to be the weakest target. So as long as you're using more security than your neighbor, you're very unlikely to be targeted. Now, pity your neighbor, but you're less likely to be the target. The same is true as if you lock your door and your neighbor doesn't. Your neighbor is more likely to be
Now, the only thing
victimized.
about it is, unless your neighbor sits right beside you, you will hardly know how secure your neighbor is.
Well, I can tell you statistically, as Raj alluded to, that the most popular, believe it or not, the most popular password that people select in any context is the word password. And people laugh at that, but it is absolutely statistically true.
Not
And
1, 2, 3.
No. And that's probably very close on the list.
Or
And-
ABC.
Exactly. And so it's not very difficult to harden your own, harden your target and make yourself a less likely victim by just taking a few simple steps, and that people ignore. You know, when you ask someone, well, gee, how did someone get in? How could someone possibly have gotten into my email? Well, what is your password? Oh, it's my birth date, or it's the numbers of my address at home, or it's my middle name, or it's the word password, or it's 1, 2, 3, 4.